This one's coming from r/ThreadTalk.
Woo.
Am I the asshole for sending my dying ex to prison?
Oh,
Did you read this one?
no.
Okay, good.
That just sounds dark.
Yeah. Trigger warning, domestic violence / abuse and drug abuse. I, 21 female, work as a dancer in a nightclub. I became acquainted with one of my customers, Jay, 53 male, and we started dating soon after. A little about Jay. He's very generous, and it was not unusual for him to come into the club and spend hundreds at a time. He's a very respected and well-liked person in the community, and is a widow plus single dad. He's the person taking the kids in the community for ice cream and helping old ladies cross the street. He's a sick man and is dying with a couple of years left to live, but is really in shape, and he used to be a pro fighter. He's an addict with bipolar disorder. We have done a lot of drugs together at the start until I found out that he is an addict and told him that we would never do that together again. I know our quote-unquote relationship was very inappropriate, but I grew to have love for him and everything was great at the start. He showered me with compliments and gifts often and would give me money by the hundreds all the time, which I never asked for because I didn't have to. He always offered and didn't take no for an answer. He's not rich, but has his own business and does pretty well for himself. I stopped working to spend more time with him, and he made sure I had whatever I needed. There was a point where he was the person I saw the most between all my family and friends. He got antsy while we were apart, and I genuinely enjoyed his company, so I was staying over a lot. I even had space in his closet for my things. Fast forward to about 5 months into this relationship, and we are all in. I've met his daughter, mother, friends, everyone. Jay was still the kind, generous man I knew him to be, but this was around the time he started nitpicking everything I did. He didn't agree with me going out with friends or posting on Instagram or even me throwing a party for myself. He was very insecure, and anything I did seemed to have bad intentions behind it in his mind. I feel the need to say that I am a stripper, but outside of that, I lead a very average life comparable to any 21-year-old girl. He just seemed to start having problems with anything I did / said. I was walking on eggshells around him at all times at this point, and even admitted to him that he was my main source of my anxiety. Business was slow for him at the time, and with that came stress. He stopped giving me much, which was understandable, but did promise to pay for a $1,000 Airbnb for one of my trips, plus $1,000 for me to replace my phone during this time. He told me he would reimburse me for these purchases, however, he never did. I never brought it up because he had already done so much for me and was going through it at work. I never demanded more from him and only ever gracefully accepted what he wanted to give me. This is when everything turns to shit. For context, I grew up never celebrating my birthday besides closing out candles on a cake. No party or gifts or celebration. I finally turned 21 this year and decided to celebrate with a birthday party since it's a big milestone. Earlier into our relationship, I found myself talking to Jay about it and told him it would cost me $10,000 to do. He shrugged it off and immediately told me not to worry about it, changing the subject. Over the next couple of months, I kept him updated with the planning and told him the date of when I would need to put a deposit down for the venue to hold my date. Well, the time comes to pay and he acts totally blindsided. I told him that I only needed the deposit and could handle the rest. He denied ever saying that he would help me with it, and was now treating me as if I was forcing him. We got into a big argument and I snapped because I felt unheard. I had not been working because of this relationship, so I really was relying on him to keep his promise to me. This party is really important to me, and I tried explaining that it wasn't about the money, but the principle of it all. He was upset and made me feel really guilty for even accepting his help in the first place. I told him I didn't even want it anymore, but he insisted once again, and he paid $5,000 in cash for the deposit. Jay had let it be known that he was taking money from his business to help me out, which made me uncomfortable accepting even more. He wasn't happy about it, but he ended up keeping his promise. For this next part, I should note that he's threatened to break up with me several times and has even gone as far as packing my things up and telling me to get out of his house out of nowhere. Coming home from a trip, Jay calls me and tells me to come over because he missed me and doesn't like being away from me for so long. I agree, but after a red-eye flight and unpacking, I fell asleep and ended up being an hour or two late to his house. He locked me out. He usually leaves the door open for me, but his daughter ended up letting me in. I go upstairs to find him upset, and after a little begging for us to please have a good night, he tells me he's done with me, starting to pack up my things once again. He thought I was cheating on him and kept saying things like, "I'm not your wallet," and "I have a daughter to take care of, and you just use me." I knew he was taking his work stress out on me, still angry about having to pay for my party. At this point, I was over him and his situation. I'm young, but I know what abuse looks like. Well, he ends up following me outside, and before I knew it, his hands were wrapped around my neck. I lost my breath for a second and started yelling for help as loud as I could as soon as he released his grip. I got in my car despite him trying to stop me and tried to apologize, and I drove to the nearest police station, accidentally driving over his foot in the process. I was in shock and crying my eyes out until I filed the police report. This was the first and only time he's put hands on me. They granted me a temporary order of protection and arrested Jay. The next day, I went to urgent care as my thumb was sprained. I blocked Jay and tried to get back to my life. I started working again and honestly felt like a weight has been lifted from my shoulders. That lasted until he showed up to my job, breaking the restraining order. He paid his way out of jail and had been quote-unquote missing me. He didn't seem to come with ill intentions and had the delusional thought that he could apologize his way out of this one. He had a habit of thinking sorry could fix whatever he did and did not mean after the fact. Jay got me the job at the club I currently work at, and I never told management about the order of protection out of embarrassment. I think it's important to note that as a dancer, it's hard to find a club I feel safe working in, and the one I currently work at is so nice. I dread having to find another place to work, and decided to keep working there until I find somewhere else. He is friends with the people who run the place, so I really felt like I couldn't tell them I got their lifelong friend arrested. Long story short, he leaves after realizing I want nothing to do with him, and makes a huge scene, worrying about me calling the cops and sending him to jail. I'm sure if I called, he would have gotten years, especially because he's been convicted of violent crimes in the past, bar fights mostly. About a week ago, I received a call from the DA stating that Jay is denying ever hurting me with video evidence from his Ring doorbell. I knew he probably shortened the clip and is lying to the detectives about everything because this very well did happen. I talked to some of the girls I work with, and they made me feel bad for not turning him in. They were saying things like, "This is how these assholes get away with things." But honestly, despite him being an abuser, I still have sympathy for the situation. He's a dying single dad and a widow. I don't want to be responsible for taking him away from his daughter because he's all she has left and is truly an incredible dad. The DA informed me that if I don't want to press charges that I will no longer have an order of protection, but I don't want to go to court. I just want him to leave me the hell alone. Would I be the asshole for turning him in? P.S. I love you guys and I'm so happy I found your podcast. I like listening to true crime, but my anxiety has been so bad that I can't anymore. Y'all are definitely helping me fill the void for me, LOL. I hope you guys get around to this because I could really use some advice.
Oh man. Yeah, no, I mean you wouldn't be the asshole, but she's not thinking about him, she's thinking about the daughter. That's very big of her, like very big heart. Like you're never the asshole for doing the right thing. I can see why you wouldn't want to because of the daughter, but you got to put yourself first. If you're not willing to like step up and say it, then maybe you should move so he can't find you.
Yeah, but it is tough. Like she said, like as a dancer, like I would imagine most of those places are unsafe. So to find a place of work where you do feel safe, like you wouldn't want to leave that.
No, exactly.
So it is tough.
That's tough. Usually these people are unhinged and they don't stop.
Yeah, exactly. I replied on the post and I just said, like my advice would be to put yourself first and turn him in just because you don't know what he's going to do.
Yeah.
Like either to you or maybe to another girl. Like
you never know until it's too late.
Exactly. And yeah, like I would hope that like, I don't know. Take the correct precautions.
Yeah. Everything's fine until it's
not. Yeah. So this is a really scary situation. And it's tough when you have had love for someone too. Like it seemed like, you know, they were actually in a relationship before. And
yeah.
So it's tough. Like, yeah, you're not you wouldn't just be affecting his life, you would be affecting the daughter's life. But at the end of the day, it wasn't your actions that would get him there. It's his actions.
It's his own actions. You telling the truth is not your fault.
Exactly. Like, I don't think you should carry guilt for that. I don't think you should feel like it's on you if he does go to jail for this. Like,
yeah,
this was like the consequences of his own actions.
Yeah, if you're not willing to go through all of that, I think you got to try and find a new place. Like, if you're not willing to go through all the legal stuff, because it's daunting and it can be tough and it's a huge task, then the next best thing would be to move and find a better place, which is still another scary, daunting task.
Yeah. So she does reply to my comment with a little bit of a more clarification. Thank you for your reply. I appreciate it. Another concern I have with going to court is the lack of evidence I have against him. I didn't have any bruises or anything like that. He also had a video of me hitting him for a time when I was upset at the emotional manipulation he was constantly putting me through. I know some people would say that I was wrong, and I agree I should have never done that and assured him that it would never happen again and that I was sorry. It was kind of a shove, and I didn't mean to hurt him. Not like I could anyways. I was just really frustrated after going through so much with him. He's a 6 foot, 200-pound man. I'm a pretty small girl, so I don't know if the court would count me shoving him as domestic violence as well. I think it's different seeing as he was unfazed and clearly not hurt. His family are also heroes after their contribution being first responders on 9/11. His 2 deceased family members have street named after them. He's close with a lot of cops as well. Literally everyone loves this guy. There's a part of me that wonders if going to court would be worth the stress. I've had to go to court and be a witness before against a family member who did end up going to prison, so this whole thing seems too familiar to me. My anxiety gets so bad sometimes, I don't want to push myself over the edge. I don't even have a lawyer, nor would even want to pay for one. I'm hoping that if it comes to it, him breaking his restraining order should be enough.
Yeah, that's wild. But I think in
really
this
tough.
situation, like, you'd have the DA on your side, right? Like, you wouldn't need a lawyer because the DA would be prosecuting him. I don't know.
I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know.
But yeah, I think, I would hope, him breaking the restraining order would be enough.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'd hope so.
Let us know if you have an update for this.
Yeah.
If you're listening. I hope you're doing okay. And yeah, just try not to hold so much guilt. Like,
yeah, don't hold the guilt.
It's not your fault.
It's not your fault.
All right.
I'm thinking in the future we should do an episode that's just only authentic stories from ThreadTalk Podcast.
Sure.
There's going to be a lot of them now.
Yeah, I haven't read.
Yeah, there's a lot.
There's a lot.
We need to catch up.
I haven't read all of them.
So I think in the future, then within the next 5 episodes or something, we're going to do just an r/ThreadTalk Podcast episode. And we'll just pick all of the original stories. Because I know a lot of people, they repost stories from other threads to kind of bring to our attention, which we appreciate. We've got some really good stories from that. But we're going to do an episode of like just only if they're posted on ThreadTalk, full story.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Back to me.
Yep.
Back to me. Before I get into the next episode, I just want to thank everybody for the support. Thank you guys so much for smashing the like button on YouTube, dropping the comment down on Spotify. And if you guys are a big fan, if you guys have been smashing through all of our episodes and you're running out, we have bonus episodes on Patreon.
Yes, we do. We have a whole 11 now.
Yeah.
Or maybe 12 when this comes out.
Maybe. Big library over there on Patreon. So we appreciate you guys supporting us on Patreon as well. And you get a little bit more in detailed life updates if you like that stuff about us too on Patreon.
Yes.
We give you the shameless stuff.
That's true. We appreciate all of you who have been listening with us and joining our Patreon.
Yeah. Thank you. Patreon bonus episodes every single Friday. So that's 1 a week, 4 a month, maybe 5, depending on the month. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Back to me.